to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Politics, CNN, Fox News, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. Is your blood pressure rising yet? Do I have your attention? I'm just trying to get your attention on a Sunday morning. This is not going to be a homily about politics yet. There might be one of those in the next few months, but somebody said to me yesterday, Father, the one thing I don't want my priest talking to me about is politics. I was like, okay, all right. Well, this isn't about politics, but this is about the anger that politics provokes in you. When I talked about blood pressure rising, that's no joke. I'm sure some of you, just in hearing some of those terms, had your blood pressure rise. I've never been one to really follow the news cycle too much in my life. Always been more of a sports guy, unsurprising. But in these last few months, I have followed the news like never before. Perhaps, certainly because of this virus and the way that it's impacted all of us. I certainly never paid more attention to the local news than I have at this time. Never been more aware of what our local politicians are doing. Never read the Wichita Eagle more. Because all of this, and we can admit this, it's affecting our lives, right? In a very real way. I think perhaps the reason we're so worked up, among others, about politics right now is because it has affected each of us in a very real and personal way. Especially just seeing the mask you're wearing, right? That has now affected our personal freedoms. It's affected which businesses can be open and which are closed. It's affected where you can go and what you can do. And so it's front and center on our minds. It's front and center. The 24-hour news cycle just churns and churns and churns. And with it, I think it's churning up more anger than I've ever seen before. Maybe it's because everything is right in our face all the time. 20 years ago, you would not have known what is happening across the world or across the country. But now, because of everything that we have at our fingertips, we have the news right in front of us all the time. We can see a video of a story that we don't know all the facts about, and we can just immediately fly off and be upset. And it's just everywhere, right? It's all up in our faces, this 24-hour news cycle. And the reason I bring this up more than anything is because last Sunday we have First Sunday Confessions, and I always try to get the pulse of the parish and the world and our country, and I think it comes across very clearly in the confessional when I hear about what people are struggling with. And just as an example, last Sunday, I had two people in a row with very different understandings and very different takes on what's happening. One person very upset about somebody in the store who wasn't wearing a mask and who was threatening their personal health, perhaps. And then the next person, somebody who was very upset that they're having to wear masks and that their grandchildren are having to wear masks. And it's just a lot of turmoil in us. A lot of anger, a lot of struggle with what we're supposed to do and who's in control and all of that stuff. And so it's on our hearts and our minds, and it's important. It's important. But it needs not steal our peace. It needs not steal our happiness. This anger that we feel. First reading today from the book of Sirach says, "Wrath and anger are hateful things, yet the sinner hugs them tight." What a visceral image today for us in the first reading. A great image. Wrath and anger are hateful things. Every one of us knows this. You know that feeling when you're just hot and angry? It's kind of like smoke around us in our eyes. Like it distracts us from everything else. We cannot do anything but focus on what we're upset about, right? Just the temperature is rising and we're angry. We're angry. We're upset. It distracts us. If I talk to anybody about prayer, if anybody comes to me and says, "Father, I can't hear God. I don't hear his voice. I don't know what he's saying. I feel lost." If I can hone in on the fact that they're angry about something, usually that's red flag number one of why they can't pray. I found anger is like this huge block in our soul that keeps God from getting in, because we cannot see him and his presence. We cannot see what he wants to say to us or hear his voice if we're distracted by our anger, which floods and crowds our eyes. And so we hug our anger tight. It's a great image. Nobody likes to be angry. Do we? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh, I just want to be angry today. I can't wait to find what makes me angry today. It's really going to make me happy and fulfill me today." And yet, if we're honest, that fuels a lot of our days, right? Anger can fuel us just as much as love and joy and peace can. Anger can fuel us. We like to hug it tight. Why do we hug it tight? I think one of the reasons we hug it tight is because it's something that we're not in control of, but it kind of justifies our anger about a certain thing. And so we can just say, yeah, look at that. That's so stupid. That's so dumb. That's ridiculous. And we can just get angry about it. And it helps us to kind of make us feel like we're in control. But in reality, we're not, right? The things that are thousands of miles away from us, the things that people are doing in closed rooms that are out of our control, they need not affect your happiness or your peace. And yet they do, right? They fuel our fire if we let it. They fuel us. And so we hug them tight. We hug them tight, and we cling to this anger. St. Thomas Aquinas, I found this great definition of anger. He says, anger is a passion for revenge that goes beyond the control of reason. Right? That's why it clouds our mind. We can't reason through what we're talking about when we're angry because we're just so furious and so upset. But I also found this definition interesting because anger is more than just being mad or upset, right? It's more than being sad. Anger is a revenge, right? That the other person that I'm mad at that either did something to me or perhaps the other side of the argument that I am on is so wrong, and I want something terrible to happen to them. Or I wish they would see what's wrong with them. Right? And that's what our news cycle does. It weaponizes this anger against us all the time. Not only to make us feel like we're right, but that the other side could not be farther from me. The other side could not understand me at all, and I could not understand them. And I want something, I want them to get what's coming to them. Right? This sense of revenge and anger. Father David, in his homily last night, he talked about how this stuff, this bad news on social media and on 24-hour news stations, they have figured out, literally, that people will follow it and pay attention to it more if it is making you angry, right? They want it to divide. I don't know if they want it to divide us as a whole, but they want to play to their group that they're playing to, and so they want to get you riled up so that you need more and more and more and more information. There's a movie coming out on this soon on Netflix, which I find very ironic since Netflix is controlling people with so much media, but it's all about how the like button and the heart button and all these things on social media, they're real addictions, right? Like they release dopamine in our brain just like smoking a cigarette or anything else that's addictive. They make us want to come back to it over and over and over again. They fuel us. They fuel that fire and that passion for revenge. And so I guess the ultimate question is, what can you control? Who controls your happiness? Who ultimately controls your happiness? Who decides whether you get to be angry or not? If you think about it, and I challenge you this week, who are the top 100 or 50 or even 20? There's probably only 20 really important ones in our life. Who are the top 20 people that control your happiness in your life? I would venture to say that neither political candidate should be on that list, and no news personality should be on that list. And nobody on Facebook that's making you angry should be on that list. But who's number one on that list? You are. And who's 1A probably should be? Jesus Christ and what he has to say to you each day. And so who controls your happiness? What makes us get angry and lose our peace is we're focusing so much on things that are out of our control. What is in your control? Your heart, your emotions, your decisions, your actions, your words, your choices. Those are in your control. And so, like with politics, for example, what's in your control with this election? To pray for the country, to fast, if need be, and your vote. Those things are in control, to read up on what Catholic teaching is and to go forward with that. But you can't control a lot of it, right? I understand that these things are important for the direction of our country at large, but I'm concerned with the direction of your soul, your individual souls, right? Your salvation, your peace. You come here to this place to seek that peace. And so refer to that quote on the bottom of the screen. It's from Father Jacques Philippe, again, one of my very favorite spiritual heroes. He's a writer. And if you want to know how to get over anger, you should look into his book, Searching for and Maintaining Peace. And in this book, one of the chapter titles is, All the Reasons That We Lose Our Peace Are Bad Reasons. All the reasons we lose our peace are bad reasons. Meaning you are ultimately in control of what robs you of your peace. And sure, there are terrible things that happen to us. Am I saying that if a family member gets into a car wreck and dies suddenly, that you should be at peace? I'm not saying it's not going to be difficult to maintain that, but I am saying that you are in control of that, right? It may take some time and some grieving and whatever, but you are in control of your peace. Regardless of what happens to you, inside your soul or outside in the world and the circumstances you inherit. Maybe it's the fact that school looks different than you thought it would be this year, that grade school and high school, and you have to wear a mask and you don't get to talk to as many of your friends. And that's a terrible circumstance, but you still get to decide whether or not you lose your peace and whether or not you cling tight and hug that anger. You get to decide. And the main way that we decide to release our anger and the main antidote to our anger and to our wrath is what Jesus gives us today, forgiveness. Forgiveness. St. Peter, he asked him kind of sheepishly, like, do I just have to forgive 7 times? Do I have to do it as many as 7 times? And the Lord says, I say to you not 7 times, but 77 times. Or some other translations say 7 times, 70 times. In other words, no, you have to forgive endlessly. When we're upset with somebody, Jesus gives us 2 options. One, last week, to tell them that they've sinned against you, to confront them face to face. But we struggle with that. We don't like that. We don't know how to deal with that often. And so the other option is to forgive them. To forgive them. And even if you can't say it to them, to forgive them in your heart. To release your heart of that anger against them. This, my friends, is what is revolutionary about Jesus' teaching. Jesus did not lead a political revolution, but he leads a revolution of the heart. Because the old law said an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. If somebody does something to you, you get them back and you seek that revenge, which is anger. But Jesus says no. Forgive endlessly. I've said it before and I'll say it 100,000 times. The greatest blessing of my priesthood is to sit in that confessional and to come in and act as Jesus Christ, forgiving you endlessly over and over and over and over again. And we, all sinners, need that over and over and over again. And he calls us to that same forgiveness of the people that we love and the people that we don't love. To the people who are our friends and the people who are our enemies. This is what we're called to. And so, perhaps maybe you feel like, okay, I want to try to forgive, or I want to learn to forgive. I feel inspired to forgive, and I would challenge you to forgive, but I don't know how, Father. Here's 5 easy steps to forgiveness. First, ask for the grace, especially if it's somebody that you haven't forgiven for years, some long-held grudge, something you just cannot let go of, that you're burning with anger about. Ask Christ for the grace to forgive them. He can do all things. Nothing is impossible with God. Nothing. Second, turn your anger into sadness. What I mean by that is when we're angry with somebody, right, we're holding them captive. We're holding the debt against them. But in holding them guilty, we're also being held guilty by them. And so just release that. Instead of being so angry and focusing on what they did to me, focus on, well, perhaps an understanding of the sadness of what they did, right? So for instance, if somebody lies to me and withholds the truth, I can be angry that they didn't give me what I wanted, the truth, but I feel more sad for them. That they thought it was a good idea, that they couldn't live in reality enough to tell me the truth, right? Feeling compassion for somebody that maybe there's something in their situation or their life that makes them do these things, right? To feel a sadness for them, well, because it hurts them too. That's the other side of this. The person that sins against you, that you're angry with, they've got something going on in their life too, right? For all of us, when we sin, when we do something we're not supposed to do, when we're angry and we hurt somebody unjustly, we've got something going on that we need fixed, that we need moved on, that we need forgiven. And so turn your anger into sadness, to sorrow at what they did. I'm sorry that the world's broken. I'm sorry that you thought it was a good idea to sin against me, but I'm not going to hold you guilty. So we speak the words, number 3, that Jesus spoke on the cross. If you can't say, I forgive you, say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Jesus forgives his enemies. Not only does he do that, but he makes excuses for them. He says they know not what they do. And that person, they may not know the effect that their sin was going to have on you. It's going to make you upset and angry, that's going to hurt you. And so forgive them. Go to the Father's heart where mercy belongs and forgive them in his name. Fourth, don't accept it's okay, or don't fall into that path of saying it's okay. This is one that I've heard parents teach their kids that I really, really like, right? When you say, I'm so sorry, will you forgive me? And somebody says to you, it's okay, but it's not okay, right? It's not okay what they did. It hurt us, or you hurt them. It's not okay. We say that all the time. It's okay to distinguish between an action that was hurtful and that was sinful, but then to say, you did hurt me, it wasn't great, but I forgive you. But I release you of this debt and this punishment that I feel, this anger against you. And lastly, forget it and move forward. Forget it and move forward. And this is probably the very hardest one. And I don't necessarily mean forget it forever, like as in your heart and your mind is still going to struggle with that. You're probably going to remember what somebody said to hurt you, and you're going to internalize it, and you're going to worry about it. I'm not saying that part, but I'm saying forget it when you're talking to that person and in your relationship with that person, right? If you've truly forgiven them, don't mention it to them again. Don't keep bringing it up. Don't keep hammering it home that they did this to you. Don't keep score. Don't remind them. Forget it and move forward. And so this is the last thing. The other day we got a big bag of donations to the parish office. We get these all the time. People drop off different prayer cards and little bulletins and pamphlets on different things that they want people to have, that they've accumulated in their lives. And so I was kind of looking through the prayer cards, and most of them I put in the library for people to gather. But there was this one little quote that caught my attention. It was on a little laminated card from Pope Francis. And it was in Spanish. And I just found it deeply touching, because this is the truth that I've found in my life, that the more angry I am, the more I feel disconnected with God, the less at peace I am. But the more that I quickly tell people I'm sorry and ask for forgiveness, and the more quickly I forgive, the happier I am. And it's this: the first person to ask for forgiveness is the most courageous. The first to forgive is the strongest. The first to forget is the most happy. I think this goes against what our minds usually think. We think we're strong and we're courageous as we hold grudges, as we get angry, as we hold to our positions because I'm right and you're wrong. But that's not how it works. That's not how this Christian life works. That's not the story and the teaching and the life of Jesus Christ. I don't know about you, but I would like to be courageous. I would like to be strong. And I would like to be happy. So let us strive to live this out each and every day of our life.